everyone. So here I've got David's book, and yes, I
Yeah.
have not opened it. This is odd because I kept it to the moment and I can open it in front of Dave. And here is the reveal. I did read and review the book, the digital version. So here we go. Aspiring CIOs and CISOs. Should I say CIO or yeah?
I'm not sure it matters. But look at the book. The book itself is got that heading, but in many ways it's not about just being a CIO and a CISO. It talks about that as a goal, but actually some people have a different goal, which is, I guess, if you go and climb Everest, some want to get to the summit, some are okay for base camp.
Yeah.
Not wrong with base camp, by the way. And so it's all about, to me, trying to be the best version of yourself you can be. And that, sorry.
No, it's exciting because David and I have been talking and preparing, and we have the same passion. Why don't you start with the very beginning? What made you start writing the book, and particularly talk about the day that you started to write the first word?
It's a good question. I've always written for magazine. So it's been running with CIO magazine, CST News, different computer world. That was running an article, so different, small and contained. And you've got an idea in your head, and you just start writing. Writing a book of the magnitude means you need to be more structured.
Yeah.
And it forces you down this path of being disciplined, which I hate. I like just to start writing. And so for me, the publisher would then say, David, you need to have this table of contents and tell me how many pages. And I go, I'm going to talk about these topics. So for me, it was a bit of a struggle to go down and be asked to be structured. I like being unstructured.
Yeah.
And so I'm a bit of an unstructured thinker normally. And so this was good for me and bad for me in a way, because they started to ask me, to tell me, what's your competition? Who's written a book like this? Who's go to Amazon and search for that and those they do differently. But actually writing was about 8 months of Sunday for me.
All right.
I couldn't usually do it weekdays. I'm too busy, and Saturdays I'm too tired. But Sunday's got a nice fresh mind. I do yoga in the morning, then I can sit in the afternoon, spend a few hours to start writing.
Amazing. And you mentioned that you are an unstructured person, which is very interesting for someone that is a CIO, used to be a CIO and then a CISO.
It's in my book, and could be chapter 2. I can't remember. I talk about my weaknesses and strengths, and your brand is what people say about you. You're not in the room. So when you walk outside, and people start, David, he's so, and then so for many years I've carried my brand, and so the brand I've developed it, but I've always been told that you're quite strategic, David. You think about things a little differently. You're able to chart. You're always full of buzz all the time, and you love working with people. I said, yeah, that's what I like. But then there's also the flip side, which is maybe the negative stuff, right? Which is bringing the people with you, David. You're going too fast, okay? You're bad with some of the detail. Focus on the big picture, and then you don't worry about some more detail. So for 20 years, I've really focused on those areas to say, how can I be better at bringing people with me on the journey? How can I be better at fine details and having to know fine details, which is very structured and very unlike me. So I've got good at that. And I know so many times that I've been I was in HSBC as a CISO role, and I get this phone call. It's the COO, and he's big shot, right? And then I'm in a one-on-one with my staff member. Hello, Raymond. Raymond starts asking me a question in detail, 5, 6 different topics. And after my staff member said, David, wow, you know the fine details of all those 5 projects. I have to. It's because I'm not good at this, but this makes me uncomfortable. But being comfortable, being uncomfortable is part of the journey.
That's
for me.
very true.
And so I've got to be good at this because they want me to be good at this. I don't like being good at this, but I have to. That was the guy next door.
Something you mentioned about you were talking with one of your direct team members and also bringing other people to the journey with you and basically running a large organization, both people that are under you and as well as people that you work with for around. So if you can talk about those experiences and how and what part of it you have shared with the readers in the book, that's really helpful.
I've always been a transformation person. I think that was part of me. And I think reinventing yourself is part of what I believe is important, because if you reinvent yourself, you never be redundant, right? Because you're always working with the front-end technology or things that are interesting and important and valued. And so for me, it goes back to the principles of when I graduated I never want to be stuck in any one job. I always wanted to have fun. I always want to be challenged. I always wanted to find ways to grow myself. And that was on the back of actually having to earn money for my family because I was married with a son.
Yeah.
But I said, okay, I want to do this. And how do I not get stuck in a place and be in a bank looking after my loan, cheap little staff loan for the rest of my life? I very tempted to take that opportunity, but actually, no, I needed to not do that. And so that kind of led me to trying to find challenge, trying to find fun. And that led me to different industries, different countries, different roles, because I was always seeking transformation of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then along the way, say, how do I help organizations transform?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the people have to transform with them, because it's not about tech and process, but the people, because in the day, you need all to work together. And actually, if you're just buying tech widgets, changing the process, not going to get it done. People have to change. And so I recognized really in my first transformation, I was probably about 20, 30 years old in my first transformation project. And it was scary. Every process, every system. And I learned very quickly that people are afraid of change. And how do I get better at bringing people with me on this change? Because it affects their livelihood. You may not have a job at the end. And I didn't have a job at the end either. Right? And I said, actually, that's okay. I'm okay with that, because I've actually done what I want to do here.
That's
and
right.
I move on.
So I totally resonate with that. If anyone has been transformation, one of the things that we say as a successful transformation practitioner or expert is that I make myself redundant. So normally what I have learned, which is really odd because everyone will think, oh, what about job security and all of that? That's not about security. And there's always something to do. I noticed when you were talking, you mentioned your language was, what can I do to change, as opposed to what they need to do. And that's admirable. And also it's a different way of thinking about it, is the change of self to be able to change others and then the organization.
Holly, we all are what we are, but we all can operate within different ranges of ourselves. And I talk about the book.
Yes.
And I call it sort of the algorithm, which is the algorithm is quite simple, because in a team, it's comprised of individuals who actually operate within this range. And so this person out of 10 is operating as a 5 out of 10. On their good days, he can operate as a 6.
Yeah.
Shireen's fantastic. She's a 7, but actually on a good day, she can operate as an 8. When you put this team together as a leader, you've got to get output, right? The outcomes, which is the algorithm. You get persons to operate at 8 and at 9, and they're working as a multiplication versus being at just a negative because they're bad teamwork. You'd be like a star because they're great and you get great outputs. It's really simple. And to me, if you get your teams to be the best version of themselves as much as they can be, sometimes they're having a rough personal patch, you down the performance. It's just normal, right? But long term, you want them to be operating as best they can be and working as a team, and then you get this great result. So to me, it's such a simple algorithm, but actually we don't teach that enough in management school.
Yes.
It's just,
I love it that you turn everything to an algorithm and a system so we can operate well. Love it, love it. The early stages of work, it has a diagram that I love that allows people to map their path forward. And having a career path is one of the key things for me, and what I work with my clients and my people and my friends, and everyone knows I'm passionate about this. What do you do? Where you want to go? Can you talk about that diagram? And if you'd expand, but don't tell them everything, because I still need you to go and read the book. It's totally worth it. But talk about that diagram and charting your way up or side.
Look, I think it's about having the ambition and trying to find your way to the mountain, right? And I think about the journey at the mountain. I did this cover some months ago, but it was around saying the journey up the mountain is difficult because it gets slippery, it gets rugged rock, it gets cold, and that's the truth. And the higher you get, the harder it becomes if you go up the mountain. It's around saying, hey, I want to go to the mountain. I might not want to be at the pit. I want to be close to the pit. And so how do I do that? And how do I chart myself down up that mountain? It's going to be safe, because there are many ways up the mountain that aren't safe. And so to me, it's around thinking, okay, I want to be here. I'm now at this point of the mountain. And then how do I think 2 steps ahead? And then think about, what is that person 2 steps ahead of me doing differently to me in terms of skills, knowledge, experience, and behavior? Now, I'll break it down if you can, because that's really important of this, because you've got to break it down into small chunks and don't make it too complicated. But as I'm trying to mentor people, I say, if you think about that person 2 jobs ahead of you, what skills that person has you don't have? and what knowledge that person had and what experience behaviors. And then so if you break that down, it's interesting. You need to put it into lines and say, okay, that person has skills in negotiation. That person has knowledge of negotiating global contracts, complicated and multi-year and multi-country, etc. That person has experience in running that process and getting the budget approved through board, and then the behavior to actually influence all the stakeholders who want something different.
That's right.
Those examples are very true as a leader. There are many different things, whether technology or process that you need to do. And if you identify this, say, actually, this makes that leader amazing. How do you break that down into something I can do now to practice that?
It's a very practical approach. It's just basically you're doing gap analysis up to see what's there and what. So what is a tip that will help people I call this group 1%, the people that they're actively designing their path forward and up. So what's the practical tip for that?
If I understand your question, it's around trying to find that level of comfortness where you say, okay, I'm here. I want to be here. This change of behavior or whatever it is I'm trying to do is going to make me really uncomfortable. Okay. How do I get comfortable to this level so I can go to the next step?
Yeah.
Getting a foothold here so I can get up here. I'll give you a good example is that if I go back to when I was 30 and someone said, David, can you speak in a conference? I'd I'd be afraid to speak in a conference. But I identified that actually one of my weaknesses. So I said, actually, I'm volunteer the position where I'm speaking at a conference of 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 5,000 people. I said, whatever, I don't care. Whatever it's different countries or different sizes, it doesn't matter to me anymore. Put myself in a position where I've just done it somewhat versus actually where I started from, which was like, could never do this. I could never do this with all the notes and having all those script in front of me.
Yeah.
Now I can.
And look at us now sitting here.
By
the way, we did not rehearse this one. I have not sent David any questions. I don't have any questions. So it's just a simple conversation. And look at us. We're not just having a conversation. Absolutely. There was a point in your book that is very important and educational for me. And that was about retirement. And you saw retirement as part of the career. And for me, that was the other way around because I thought I always walk around and tell all my friends and family that I'll never retire. I will just keep going. But I noticed in the book, you positioned it as part of career, and that was new to me. And I was thought, oh, okay. And now I'm looking at you.
Everybody has different definition of what retirement means. And it means different things, different people in terms of when. Retire at 45, at 50, 55, 60, 70. President of the US, or how old are they? 8? Oh.
Yeah, I know.
It's up to you, and it also depends what you want to do in that retirement. And to me, it doesn't mean slowing down necessarily. I'm not slowing down at all. I want to. Thank you. I
can testify to that.
I think retirement means a portfolio, which is actually being able to choose different things every day. And for me, it's advisory, it's boards, it's writing articles, it's mentoring people, it's fintechs, it's all kinds of things. So it's not one thing, and so that defines me. That person actually doesn't want to do any of those. They might just want to do one thing or nothing. But I think all your experiences and work enable that.
Yeah.
And so it's understanding your whole career and what you've learned, and that you map it all out, right? And say, this is what I've learned personally, career-wise, and how can I actually apply that in my retirement? Because it might be not for profit. It might be building a house in Africa. It might be different things that suit you, but usually your foundation.
I love it. I'm going to borrow the idea of retirement needs a portfolio, and then you can define what's the portfolio, what are the type of assets and activities in there. I like it. I'll borrow it. All right. Is there anything specific that you would want to, the way it will help the readers is that a mapping of if you feel this problem, probably you find the answer in this book. If you can guide readers as what sort of answers they find in the book, that will be really helpful in terms of getting really, truly valuable.
I started that, and we didn't talk about this at all, but I started with that idea in mind to say, what question would I answer? And I think I put in the preface top 10 questions. And as I was writing the book, I've written 100 something questions you can answer.
Yeah.
So a whole bunch of them actually in the appendix. And so there's questions because I think the questions are important, as important as the answers are.
Yeah,
in a way.
absolutely.
So if you look at the appendix, you see there's 100 odd questions in there.
That's right.
And they're all about you, about your brand, about your ambitions, et cetera, et cetera. I think I've thought about this, and I was asked by someone else about, what's your research? I said, David, this is David's life. Okay. This is my lived experience. It's not doing a study of other people and doing surveys. It's actually what I've seen that have worked and doesn't work. And I'm trying as much as possible to be honest and humble and say, this worked for me. It may not work for you. I hope it works. But I think that's the approach I took with the work.
Yes.
I love coaching people. I love helping to the best version of themselves. So how do I put that into words?
Yeah.
You can't really do that if you're actually being high and mighty and I know the answer, bang my chest. It doesn't work that way. People want to actually feel that they can connect and make their own mind up to say, actually, here's a question. How do I interpret that question for myself and make it real for them? Internalizing is really important. In many ways, I've had sort of technology vendors actually pick up the book and buy it off me and ask me to sign it because they said, David, I try to sell to the CIO and CISO and I don't know how they think. This book helps me think how they think.
That's
understand
right.
how they think in different stages of their career, whether in the first 90 days, whether they're starting their job or whether at the end of their career. And okay, I thought about that, but that wasn't my intention writing the book. But we'll read it in that way.
That's right. I always say a good question is half of the solution because most of the time we pick the wrong question or we're wondering why something. And I'm like, okay, you can ask why something is that way, but you're looking backward. What about think of what you want to achieve in the future, where you would like to go, what your legacy would want to be. And those type questions, firstly, will move you forward. Secondly, is allowing you to explore.
It's funny you say that. I remember going to one of my first second CIO jobs, and it was in China. It was in Shanghai, in China, and I had joined this company, Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals, which is now the biggest pharmaceutical in the world, I think. Right?
Did you have shares in there?
I did have shares before, but so they've got this. I moved to there, and I met with the HR director, and on my second day, I think it was, and we had lunch together, and he said, "David, you have to leave deep footprints."
That's right.
And I thought about that. I said, okay, you mean, I'm not here to do the technology, build a data center and put in new systems because we had no payroll system, no sales and marketing systems, no R&D systems. And I said, oh no, you really did. And I remember talking to her afterwards, like literally in the last few months and saying, by the way, did you remember what you said to me 20-something years ago about leaving deep footprint? And I thought about that and I've tried to do that. And I think deep footprints is often left with people, not with systems, because the people will sustain your change after you leave.
That's right.
And one of the beauties I had in that job was I was a CIO for 15 years in 5 countries, and I had to do the strategy, had to do 9 days, and then build a team, think about the future, and then build my successor. And where in every case, find my successor and in my job.
That's right.
As I was leaving. So
that's right.
It was. I think at some stage I realized actually the rest of the world doesn't operate that way, and I said, oh, that's interesting. Why doesn't it? Because that's great, because I can then get myself out of a job, move in a new fun activity, transform myself again, and then I'll leave the place in good shape. So actually they'll think about me in nice terms way after I've left. Yeah.
I have a mini series that it's about a day in a calendar of a CXO. And now I wanted to ask you, what's happening in your calendar? What are your activities these days? Because I can see you all over doing so many different things.
I've been onboarded as a beta consultant.
Yeah.
And so that's not a job. It's consulting at a strategic level and consult to boards and to top management around their IT strategy, their cyber strategy and so forth. That's fun. I'm also doing work here in this building with Jay's Careers.
Yeah.
Helping them set up a cyber recruitment division.
That's great.
I'm doing lots of different advisory things with organizations. This is fun. The second book is being written for next year.
Everybody, be ready.
So it's a day in the life of a CISO, which is fun. And I'm writing that with 20 plus different CISOs around the world.
Yes.
And I'm writing for Foundry CIO magazine.
Yes.
Which is also fun. I used to write for them 8-9 years ago, but because it's the US version, it's magnificent. It's 1.2 million readers each month. And so it's fun to write articles about tech, cyber and whatever. I'm sure I forgot some things, but that's part of it.
Yeah. And what about fun and resorts and holidays
Oh,
and
all
all
that.
that?
Absolutely. I've so many plans. We just come back from some holidays in Thailand and Singapore with my wife, and that was spas every day and yoga every day. And now there's more to come. And so there's always a bucket list of things from a personal standpoint, as a private standpoint, you need to have to say, I must do these things. Because you're dead, you can slow down and rest. But why not? Why not take a challenge on and try to do as much as you can?
I love that because I sleep very limited number of hours in a day. I only need 6 hours, and I always try to do as much as I can meaningfully do. I'm not a cluttered person, and all my friends and my clients and everyone knows that I try to maintain a calm life. But I always say there's plenty of time to sleep after I die.
Exactly.
So I want to do everything as much as I can do and enjoy life. And the reason I ask you about your calendar is because I've seen you since you're retired, quote unquote. I see you do more stuff than before I knew you. I'm like, okay, so now there's no job, but then David is everywhere.
I think it's part of the lessons of the book, which is thinking ahead, right? And so for me, thinking ahead was planning out my retirement, planning out my retirement, and then spending best part of 12 months, 13 months saying, well, I don't retire here. And then this is my date. And then working through to say, what did I do at that time?
Yeah.
And then, so don't get to the end and then wonder about it. Think about it in advance. So to me, even my last job with Macquarie, where I was global head of technology, cyber and data risk, that was to enable me to be on board, because being a CEO for 20 years and a CISO, never done risk management as a career before. So taking on risk management for the last 3.5 years has been a way to change my thinking and sharpen how I ask questions, because risk management can't do it anymore. Hands on, you got to just ask questions and ask.
And know exactly where to poke.
Yeah, exactly. Using all that scar tissue from being a CEO and CISO and saying, actually, the biggest risk to us is actually that. Do you agree or disagree? And then trying to help them get there. So to me, that's always thinking 2 steps ahead, right? How do I use that scar tissue in my background to do something different? And this is that I still have all those lessons I'm using today.
Love it. If anyone wants to contact you, what's the best way? And just share with them.
I think there's probably LinkedIn. I'd love to engage with people on LinkedIn. There's a aspiring CEO and CISO blog as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
There's aspiring CEO and CISO at gmail.com email address, but just reach out. I'd love to engage.
Definitely. So everyone, I would say LinkedIn is definitely the best place. I've seen how active David is on LinkedIn. And yes, if there is any questions, if you want to work with David as a mentor, I highly recommend it. This is the opportunity that you actually get to ask questions that are practical, relevant to your case. It's not theory. And you get someone's opinion that is seasoned, has all the scar battles, and you get an outside perspective. And that's worth a million, because most of the time we're at work and we're doing this stuff, and like some days I am running something really big and I'm like, I know I can do it. I know it's solid. I know I'm solid. I know it's just no brainer. But I'm like, I wish I could pick up some phone and ask someone, this is my plan. Solid? They say yes, no, or mindful of that. I'm like, good, I can do it. Bye. So yes, definitely. Yeah. I hope you get yourself the opportunity and chance to read the book, because I enjoyed it, though unbiased. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.